once again into the breach, checking out what the heck Serral does to beat Terran. Many people say, oh my gosh, Terran is so hard to beat right now. Serral says, hold my water? What's Serral's defining beverage? That's a good question. Someone should interview him. Serral, what beverages do you imbibe? Because like hold my beer doesn't really work if they're not really a beer drinker, right? Because you wouldn't even have a beer for someone to hold. Hold the blood of my enemies. Serral is about to make a drone. This map is Equilibrium. Liquid Clem in the upper right with the polar bear. Serral in the blue with his thing on the ground. He's making drones. Looks like he's gonna go 16 hatch. Now, one of the things I want to see this map is his expansion pattern. That's always an interesting choice for players, is where do you take your third? Where do you take your fourth? Taking your natural here makes sense. That makes sense. It's not a surprise at all. But where does he take a third? The way that I normally play this map as a non-pro GM player would be third base here, fourth base here, because the gold base seems good to me. That's the extent of my reasoning. For Serral, he knows more about the game than I do, so he might make a different choice. But if he makes the same choice, then I will feel very smart. If he expands in a different way, I will feel like a student who has learned a lot. So it's a win-win. Either you exit the situation feeling smarter or feeling smarter. That's the beauty of study. One Reaper is on the way, Mule's going out, SCV scouts, let's hatch first. It's gonna patrol here for a minute. SCV on patrol. SCV ready. Yeah, he triangle thirds against Terran. That's just what he does. Watch out, drone! Oh, the Reaper goes into the Nat. Serral knows it's safe to take that third now, and he does. Gets the third base. I thought the Reaper would have stopped that. He did place the drone near the extractor, so if he needed to make one, he could. Pretty good play. Queen and lane getting up to the high ground here. Reaper jumps up. You can't explain that. Third queen being made in the main, as we've seen him do before. 25 drones, gets another overlord. And this Reaper is just gonna keep tabs on the Zerg operations in the coming months. Ooh, second factory. Oh, this overlord scouting pattern. Pretty cool. There's a Marine trying to deny scouting here, and Serral flew his ass all the way around the main to fly into here, and he scouted the second factory. That's crazy. I've never scouted like this on this map. I didn't even know you could be over here that far. That's so much room. This Overlord is gonna be so far back in the city. Terran's probably just gonna forget about him. And this is my bet. This Overlord is gonna morph into an Overseer and gonna follow up Scout later on. I'm calling it. We'll see if it happens. Hellions looking around, trying to delay this creep. Serral's got 2 tumors at the front. Knowing when not to send them is actually relatively more important now. Back in the day, you used to be able to cancel creep tumors that were being made, and then you could just choose to resend them. But they nerfed that because Zerg is obviously too strong. Got the third base going here. He is droning up. Will he take a 430 lair? He's got a Roach Warren for safety. And the Roach Warren, I think, is the better call if you specifically scout this double factory style. You can play Lingbane against it, but you will die. And then you'll be like, damn, I should have made a Roach Warren. So if you see the double factory, just get a Roach Warren instead. The thing that's nice about Roaches as opposed to Banelings is whenever you have Roaches defending this, you can just morph a low Roach into a Ravager and you get full HP back, which is great. It's a lot harder to do so with Lings or Banes. And that's a big part of what this Cyclone style wants to do, is just deal chip damage. They're not committing all of this and like jamming it into the Zerg's base. They basically want to drive up, lock onto stuff, and drive away. Which many Zerg players consider to be infuriating, but that's the nature of the unit. It's the nature of the beast. More Hellions being made here. And then Barracks. We have seen him go for this strat before, where you go for some Cyclones. He's making one more of them. So he's going up to 8 Cyclones, and then he's going to play Bio off the back of it. He's using that old morph the injured roach into a Ravager trick. And then the Lings are getting most of us around here. It's like Cyclone Stutter Step. So weird to see. I don't even know if it's good, but if Clem's doing it, it might be. Gets the transfuses on the Ravagers. Oof. They killed that poor Ravager. Third command center going up for Clem. Moving this barracks onto the reactor. And then he's going to make another reactor. Couldn't he have just made the reactor on the barracks? I don't know how Terran works. He's still got 5 Cyclones, got a few Hellions. Flying out this third command center. Serral's taking his 4th here, so maybe it's a 5th gold? Maybe the gold is just too punishable by a Terran who's this good. I take the gold all the time, but I don't face Clem. I face 5k Terrans, not 7k Terrans. What Terrans do you face? One of the things that I've actually used in Dota as a fun, like, mental tool is whenever I'm facing an illusion hero, say Phantom Lancer. People who don't know Dota, just tune me out for a couple minutes. If someone plays Phantom Lancer, the way that I tell which Phantom Lancer is the real one is I just think in my head, which one of these is being microed like a Platinum Terran unit? And that's the real Phantom Lancer. Most of the other units kind of have some vague or general AI behavior path, and then one of them is like being microed around in a partly efficient way. And they're usually running from you. So that's how I get that read. Can we see the production tab, please? You know, because you asked so nicely, you may. That's genius, yeah. It is. The thing, I guess the reason that I say Platinum Terran is because when you are in the mid leagues with Terran, you're fast enough that you know that you're supposed to control your units. And usually if you're Platinum, you've at least seen some pro Terrans. And Terrans like stutter step their units and do like very fancy stuff a lot. But a lot of times people in the mid leagues will over micro their units in a way that doesn't actually increase their DPS. It just looks fancy and it allows them to click more. And Dota gamers do that shit all the time. Look at this double attack. Cyclone's hitting at the top side. But the 3 Ravager defense. There's also a double drop here in the bottom. We saw this in the Serral versus Rainer's Protoss Radhusset Station game, where it ended up being like 2 games of StarCraft at once. A StarCraft match in the south, this is Zerg versus Bio, and then a StarCraft match in the top, this is Zerg versus Battlemech. Clem is just doing both at the same time, and Serral's just making do. So he takes a gold 5th. A gold 5th base. He's got 89 drones versus 73 SCVs. Production tab is Ling, Infestor, Bane Speed, Adrenal Glands, Burrow 2-2, 14 Ling, 3 Viper, Creep Tumor Extractor. He's got a lot going on. Clem is going for a big push on the top side. Oh, the Queen tries to spread some creep, but is murdered. And the Bio is pushing forward now. These tanks are very far from this base, so I'm guessing Serral could wait for a bit before committing if he wants to. He has another big round of Banes being morphed here. The 2 Medivac stuff is still over here, and so disciplined with this defense. He keeps the Ravager Ling over here, because he's like, I know we're playing 2 games of StarCraft at once. I'm fighting the north against your army in the north, and I'm fighting in the south against your army in the south. He's got control groups. He's got hotkeys. Look at this gamer using hotkeys camera locations, and multiple control groups. 3 Vipers. They just blind the tank. Corrosive Biles go out, and that is a dead tank. I'm not quite sure the reason we don't just abduct that one, but Serral is the GOAT, so make of these things what you will. 193 supply to 174 Ultras being cooked up here. Marauder and 6 Marines on a plane. There's also a drop over here. Whoa, the Queens are all in the main. Focus of firing down the Medivacs. Queens deal more damage to air than they deal to ground, so for them to focus the Medivacs is way better than just letting them attack move the Marines. A lot of Queens did fall there, though, so that could impact Serral's larva uptime. Yeah, he lost a bunch of inject uptime from that. The thing that makes it less bad, though, for his general situation here is that he's got Ultra Tech unlocked, and Ultra is one of the most larva-efficient units in the game. The Ultra and the Broodlord are very larva-efficient. You can basically spend 100 worker economy into Ultras with, like, I don't know, 5 hatches, uninjected. You don't want to do that because you also want to have enough larvae to make some lings, just so your army composition is nice and diverse. You could say the less diverse your unit composition is, the more exploitable it is to counters. So that's why just pure mass Ultra is not as good as Ling Bane Ultra. Because the Lings and the Banes counter the units that counter the Ultras. And the Ultras counter the units that counter the Lings and the Banes. And the Ultras are also just good. So that helps. Ling Bane running in here. Blinding Cloud goes on all the tanks. The tanks are rendered completely useless. And then the one Infestor gets a fungal. Ravager Ling Ultra pressing in here. Clem is looking pretty rough. His tanks didn't do anything. And now the Ultra is just chomping away at his 3rd base. Ultra Bane Ravager runs down to this 4th base planetary. This Ultra at the 3rd is up to 7 kills, and it is still doing work. The Banes and the Ravagers trying to bust down this planetary. SCV's repairing it from the back. The Banes soften them up and deal damage to the building at the same time. This Ultralisk has 14 kills. Its rank is a Ravager. I think they added that rank of Ravager before they added the Ravagers, so kind of awkward when a Ravager is rank Ravager. Amazing game. Wow. 2 matches of StarCraft at once. So his expansion pattern, just to break it down, was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I think the key element to Serral's strat that just made him bulletproof this game was having 2 armies. He had 1 clump of stuff just defending his south, and then he had the rest of his army defending up here north. And then the Vipers. The Vipers really countered the prepped Ultra transition counter. By Clem going for a big tank push, if you just run out of the tank push with Ultras before Chitinous is done, that's a very frequent way to lose the match as a Zerg. But he invested in those few key Vipers early on, just to make sure the Ultras would get free reign to go up and chomp stuff. Very well played by Serral. Well done.